I'd like to call to order the Village of Ashwaubenon Park and Rec Board meeting for Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. Roll call, please.
Chris Serval.
Here.
Tracy Flukie.
Here.
Dean Hess.
Here.
Mark Castonian.
Here.
Donovan Miller.
Here.
And Ron Mowerman.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and please keep in mind our brave men and women that are helping us keep our country safe here and abroad. Action on the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Action on the minutes from November 19th, well, that seemed a long time ago. November 19th, 2024 Park Board meeting.
Make a motion to accept.
I'll second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Comments from the public must be limited to items not on the agenda, must state name and address, limited to 5 minutes. Board's role is to listen, not discuss the item. Personnel issues cannot be discussed nor individuals named. Board is not able to take action at this meeting. We don't have anybody in the audience or on the interweb. So comments from the public, none. We'll move on. Action on the consent agenda to receive the Park and Rec Department report and receive and accept the Ashwaubenon pool report. Does anybody want to see anything pulled or have discussion on this?
Could we ask a couple questions on both of them, please?
What's that?
Could we pull both of them to ask a couple questions on?
Yep.
The pool report's more of a, that shouldn't be on the consent, so if it was,
Okay,
I
it says-
apologize.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
But
okay.
Mel's here to talk about it. too.
Okay.
So if someone could open that up, that would be great.
Yeah, if we could open it for both items, please.
Okay. We have a motion, or do we need a motion and a second on that? Yep. Okay, we have a motion to open the floor.
Or just to move them from consent to action.
What's that?
To move them from consent agenda to action items.
Yeah,
Both of these?
I don't even know if you need to do that. You just, simply by request of one of the committee members, just to pull that item from consent for discussion is all you would need. And then if you're gonna receive and accept them, then a simple motion for that after the report has been given is sufficient, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Tracy, you made that motion?
Yes.
Yep. We need a second?
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on this. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? We are open for discussion.
So I'm going to step in, if that's all right, with the, and just say, let's tackle the pool report first. If that's all right, since Melody's here, and Melody has just some stuff to present to you of what the highlights were of 2024.
So I like to do this every year, to just kind of go over how 2024 went at the pool. I've put together just kind of the program, rentals, open swim, that kind of numbers for you, so you can kind of see where that lays out each month, and overall as like a water exercise class and things like that, how many residents and non-residents and people we serve in our community. So I put those numbers together for you as well. On the second page is just kind of an overview of how our swimming lesson program goes, how many kids we put through. 2024 was a good year. Excuse me, numbers stayed pretty consistent. We can only hold so many kids in a class, or so many water exercise ladies in a class. So our classes stay pretty full. The water exercise groups are a nice group of ladies, and they are very loyal, and they are there every time. So those numbers can't necessarily grow other than where they're at. We usually have between 25 to 30 ladies in our water exercise class. Same with our swimming lesson class. A tiny tot class holds 6 students. It can't hold more than 6 for safety reasons. So those are usually capped. If I'm able to get an additional instructor, that's when you'll see maybe just a little bit more in a session versus other ones. But 2024 was a good year. We hosted a lot of swim meets. I think our pool has been designed to be one of the top places to host a meet. Those 22 swim meets are a combination of high school meets, high school conference sectionals for both boys and girls.
Could you pull the mic back a little?
Oh, sure. Thanks. A combination of the high school teams, Ashwaubenon Swim Club hosts all their meets as well. They have, I think, 3 or 4 every year. The YMCA also hosts their meets at our facility. So we do a lot of that. It's a lot of long weekends. We were able to host Club State again this year, which was a huge feat, and the club did a really nice job. This is our second year hosting.
That's the 10-year-old division, correct?
10 and unders.
So how many participants in that age group?
So there was last year in 2024, there was 549 swimmers. So if you imagine that each swimmer only would bring 2 parents, a parent to watch, which is not, grandma and grandpa come, aunt and uncle. That's a lot of guests that come through our facility, and we kind of filter them through that Friday, Saturday weekend. It's a really big endeavor that the club takes on, and they've done a really nice job with it. This year, we are not hosting state, but we're hosting regionals. So, which again is just as large as state, because people are trying to qualify for state at those regional events. So it actually might be kind of a longer meet than we've even had with state. So that's exciting. Brings lots of people to the village here with hotels and all the food, because it's a whole weekend event. So we put 1,118 kids through our swim lesson or learn to swim program. That's a pretty decent number. There aren't too many winter swim lesson programs in the area. The Y, the Croc, they have swimming lessons, but we are kind of the only one around that as a municipality that is able to do a winter swim lesson program, so that's nice, or fall winter, I should say. So we keep those pretty stacked with kids and putting those kids through.
Hey, Mel,
Yeah.
for the swim lesson program, what would you estimate? And I know we've got the numbers because our rec track system is really good on being able to keep track of residency as well as all the financials that we do every year, which is where all these numbers came from. The financial stuff all came from our system. So it's really easy to pull. But what would you estimate percentage-wise the number of residents each session in our swim lesson program?
It is majority residents, so percentage-wise, I would say in the 70s, maybe even higher, 85% residents. Our residents get a week to sign up earlier than non-residents, and I would say there are slim pickings for spots for non-residents to get in. It's a pretty cutthroat program. I don't do any advertising whatsoever because there's nothing to advertise. I don't have any spots available. The helpful hint I give even our residents is that our swim lesson program is available at 12:01 in the morning of the date that we assign, and people are staying up and registering at 12:01 to get into our swim lesson program. I tell them, I'm sorry, I'm changing your sleep schedule, but it is, when you look at the times that people are logging in and signing up, they are signing up after midnight to try and get into these programs. So, there is a lot of times there's not any room for any non-residents. So I'm glad we're serving the residents of Ashwaubenon. But yes, majority residents is what's in our program, at least during the winter, spring, and fall sessions. Summer has a lot more openings and different time slots that people can get into. So it's a good program. The kids really like it. Other than that, we just like the swimming lesson program, we serve a lot of adults in our water exercise. We have a deep water class. We still pair with Aurora on some of their classes to offer kind of like a physical therapy type class for our residents. Those programs are all going really well. One class we didn't run this year was our swim clinic. That's a contracted out class. He wasn't able to run it this year. Otherwise, that would have, that's usually a well-attended class. But he just had some coaching issues of having people staff that, so we weren't able to run that in 2024. And unfortunately, it didn't kind of take off in 2025 either, so we won't be running that again. We'll see if he'll bring it back. It's kind of like a triathlon type class that people sign up for. They get some kind of coaching for that swimming portion of a triathlon, but some challenges that we kind of faced in 2024 is building, I guess, not necessarily anything that we can control, but we do have a pretty high turnover rate with our building staff as far as cleaning goes. There is a designated cleaning person for both the PAC and the pool, and that is their only job, is just the pool and the PAC, because they are large.
This is a contract administered by the school district, not by the village. So these are village contractors that clean village, or the school facilities.
So there's a lot of turnover with that staffing, which is hard because it is a pretty specific place to clean, and there are things that really need to be watched. So if you do utilize the pool at all, know that we are aware and we try and keep things as clean as we can. But that turnover has affected us a little bit. We also did have a longtime pool operator that and maintenance man that the high school had that retired this summer. He was just my favorite. Roger, if you have ever met Roger Berth, he was absolutely the best. He was with the school district for a very long time, and he retired this summer. So his main job, he was the lead maintenance guy at the high school, and he has been with the pool since it's been there, and so he had a kind of a special spot for that pool. So it was nice to always be able to rely on him to kind of get things done. They do have new maintenance people in place, and they are amazing as well. So I'm sure that it's been going well since Roger has left in June, but it definitely was kind of a transition. Staffing was a little bit of an issue last year, only because it's kind of one of those years where I have to revamp my whole staff, so I had a lot of new staff at the pool during the summer, so we did a lot of instructor training and things like that, but it wasn't a pretty new staff last year. So hopefully this year I won't need to search so hard for staff. But other than that, it was a pretty good year at the pool. I'll kind of open it up to you guys if you have any specific questions or anything like that.
I have one point. I see that you have day camp revenue in here on your program rentals. Can you just talk about what historically has been done and then what we're doing this year?
So historically, as day camp has kind of been created, we started with 1 day a week with day camp at the pool, and we utilized during a break period that the pool had in the summer, so the day camp kids could come in and do that. It is a very loved portion of the kids' day, so David and I have kind of worked together to create more time frames so that day camp can come in. As we kind of sat through that and looking at that after the fact, it kind of was pulling from my lifeguarding costs. So this year, unfortunately, I had to kind of put things together numbers-wise and essentially charge the day camp for utilizing the pool. It's kind of a internal type thing, obviously, because they're both programs, but I did charge the day camp this year to utilize the pool for the day camp purposes.
That's why revenues are up a for your rentals.
Right, so in the summer, we don't rent at all, just because the pool is utilized for swimming lessons all day long. And those lifeguards and swim instructors get 40 hours a week alone in swimming lessons, so I just don't have the staff. We also want to encourage people to utilize the lake in the summer rather than the pools, and so that's where that kind of came in.
And we do a lot of lake rentals.
Yes.
A lot.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. It looks like very few rentals in the summer, but you just don't rent during the summer at all,
I don't have the staff, and I don't necessarily have the time to put it in there.
Okay.
When the Y comes in for their Titletown freeze now, are they renting that?
They rent that. And they pay for the lifeguards and a facility fees, yes, they do.
So what's an average rental like for the Y, for a beat the size of the Y? What are we bringing in on that?
Somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 for them to come in and utilize. Depending, it really depends. Sometimes a one-day meet will be more like $1,000 or something like that. It depends on it's based on how many hours they're utilizing the pool, but they are charged. Now, the club, when like the club uses the pool, they are not charged a facility fee. They are just simply charged for the time my lifeguards are there. So they have to pay the hourly fee of my lifeguards to cover costs. I do charge them for certain building needs like paper and batteries and all the things that we would, need, but otherwise the Y is looked at as a rental.
Well, the open swim in July it had like 65 versus, 300 to 100 and some, all the rest of the months. Do you just have less time that's available for open swim, or just people don't participate as much because of the summer, or what have you seen?
So this open swim times, there's no weekend open swims in the summer, again, because the lake is open. The open swim is a 45-minute time block every single day. So it's a short time block between a lesson that I can create. They're just, it's just a lot smaller.
Why the difference in the revenue per number of participants from month to month? Like you see January 334 for 1513, but then you see March 511 for 1287. So per participant, that number is changing.
Correct. That,
Where are you looking at, Chris? So you're looking at the
Open swim.
they had more participants, but more, so it could have to do with, I don't know if it's,
Could they be
Some of
buying
my-
the passes?
what?
Could they be buying their passes?
Correct. So January, they could be buying passes and the pass is $65 or $66.
Okay.
But it's only one person coming in, and I have some of my regulars that come in, and in January, they'll buy themselves passes for the whole, like, to get them through, till March. So they'll buy 2-3 passes.
Okay, that makes sense. And then the cleaning staff, so we contract that out?
We do not. It is run by the school district. It's the school district's.
Turnover of cleaning staff from contracted cleaning.
So they have a service, they contract, they have some of their own staff that do the maintenance
The school does.
of the high school, but some of the cleaning is done by a contracted company
Right.
that comes in, and that company has had some ongoing turnover in their employees that are assigned to the high school.
Okay. So that, okay, yeah, all right, thanks.
And lifeguards for now, the winter time, you're okay. I know in the summer it's the opposite because you need everybody for the lake but
Yeah.
lifeguard situation's okay.
Yep, lifeguards are good right now. This past 2 months have been glorious because all my college kids are home, so they're just hungry for hours. So it's been just an absolute breeze. But getting into February now, they're all going home, and so. But swim season is ending. Sometimes it depends on my staff. Boys season is right now. When girls season is in, I have a lot more girls that teach lessons and things like that. So I struggle a little bit to piece things together then. They do a good job. I am very grateful and lucky. I have always been filled with, enough staff. This upcoming summer season, I should be pretty good because I had such a kind of turnover last season. I have a lot of new, fresh staff and young ones coming up, and siblings. I love siblings. It just keeps going in the family. So I should be good.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion, anything else for Mel? No, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And good luck in Florida, and
Oh my
I
gosh,
hope
I'm
you get a little bit of beach time anyway.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I love this conference. I'm very, very grateful to be able to go. I go in like a week. Get to hang out with all my weird aquatic friends and talk aquatic conversations. So I'm very excited about it. So I'll bring good stuff back, I promise.
And then from aquatics, we go into the benefit report. If, I know that item is also open on the floor, I believe. Is there specific questions that I can try and help with?
I had a question on the NRDA project. If you can just remind us again exactly what that is. It looks like it's 60% complete for like the project and then it has to go back.
The planning is 60%.
Okay, and then it has to go back for funding to actually be able to do it. Is that correct? And what is the project again, if you could just remind us?
So the acronym that we're using is, they're called the ACDC projects, not necessarily after the band. It's the Ashwaubenon Creek project and the Dutchman's Creek project. So Ashwaubenon Creek AC, Dutchman's Creek DC. So they're kind of married together. The village is keeping track financially of both of those projects. We have monthly meetings with all the people involved. So the Ashwaubenon part of it, really, I'm kind of running the show there, I guess, myself, and bringing David along so he's very familiar with it as well. That is going to be additional fish spawning areas, some of the shoals. You know, we've got those 2 rock shoals on the north part of the park, just off the shoreline.
Yep.
We'll be doing multiple shoals, on the east side of the park, behind Ashwaubenon Lake and down towards New Water. Part of that too, we're putting in purple martin houses. We're putting in wood duck houses. We are taking ash trees from within the park. You probably, if you notice them, there's a fairly large amount of those concrete culverts that are in the park on the right-hand side when you first go in. And this is the same thing we did with the initial project in 2017. But what happens is we will be digging into the banks. We'll be setting those concrete culverts in the banks, as well as out in the water where the shoals are going to be. They will put the ash trees into the culvert, almost like think of the culvert as a ring, so the ash tree will go into the ring, and that culvert weighs the tree down and keeps it from moving from the ice flow and from the current. With the shoals, then what they'll do is they'll take rock and they'll cover up those culverts in the water, and that'll give additional weight onto those trees. It takes about a year, a little over a year, for those big trees to become waterlogged per se. And then I don't want to say they could stay on their own, but then they'll really be in place. So what that's going to be, with the shoals and concrete culverts, that anchors the trees in place, and there's going to be quite a few of them put in there. And those will become the fish spawning areas, which is what the NRDA project is. It's to help increase or benefit both the wildlife and the aquatic life, in a particular area that has been, I don't want to say damaged, but affected by past aggressions, i.e. paper mill issues and things like that. So we've got that going on. There'll be a couple of what's called step downs. So it's the ability for people to go right to the water's edge. There'll be actually some stone steps that go right down into the water, so people can go down and actually touch the water and be close to any, for viewing and things like that. So that's what's happening there. Very similar stuff over in Dutchman's Creek. Now, I'm not necessarily managing the Dutchman's Creek one. I am working with Greg on the financials and kind of working as a whole because it's in Ashwaubenon, but the Dutchman's Creek one also involves the Railroad Museum, because that's, one side of the creek is their property. The other side of the creek is where Terror on the Fox is, and technically that is Brown County. Brown County owns that piece of land, so Brown County is also involved in this ACDC committee that we meet every month. And so then we kind of, as Stantec advances the project, and they show us the latest maps, and we talk about what their changes are and whether we think something's going to work, and then changes are made. So it's a back and forth thing. The thought on that is to have those maps or the plans ready this summer, then Fish and Wildlife and the DNR will present it to the NRDA Council that has control over the funding, and it's 100%. It's 100% grant, so it's not our portion is our time basically. So that if it's approved, which we're hopefully it will be, because we're working with them as well, to make sure that these are things that they are in agreement with, all of the changes that we're doing. Then, once we get the funding, our goal is to, if it's on target, to bid it out in the fall, in early to mid-fall. And then it'll probably be a 2-year project, quite honestly, with all the work that needs to be done. Most of that, I wouldn't say we're gonna see construction on any NRDA things, again, if we get the approval on it, until 2026 is my guess. And so it'll be a 26 and 27 project.
Does it include the kayak launch at all, Rex, or is that a second phase of it? Or does it not include that?
It does.
It does? Okay.
Yep. It does. It also includes several pollinator gardens with wildflowers. So, yeah.
Thank you. I couldn't remember what it all
Is
involved.
this what we talked about at the Railroad Museum a while back? Is that the same group that you're,
It is. It is.
all right, that's what I thought, I just.
Because the projects are, they kind of like crossover lines, because we actually have a bid opening next week for, not to get into it, but we have the bid opening next week for the Ashwaubenon River Trail extension. And that's the concrete stairs and the trail all around the exterior of Ashwaubenon. But Grafe is working on that one. So Grafe and Stantec are sharing maps back and forth. So we wanted to make sure each one knows what the other one is doing, so that the design on what Stantec is doing is going to easily be married to where the trail's going to go. Like where's the step down's gonna go? Okay, well, then we're gonna take from the trail, here's the pathway to the step downs. And so it's just a little planning and organization, but it's so far, knock on wood, it's been working out, so. Does that pretty much cover the NRDA question you had, Tracy?
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Rex, where are we at on, are any updates on, that corner of Argonne and by Cabela's? Are they gonna go in there now, that the ground's solid, and remove some things?
You should see some action on Thursday and Friday of this week.
Okay.
They were gonna go in tomorrow, but it still was looking a little chilly tomorrow, so they pushed it to Thursday and Friday. So as long as it's not like sub-zero temps, they'll have a crew in there doing additional phragmites and buckthorn removal this week, end of this week.
And then the trail in Argonne, where the crusher dust is now, is that where the boardwalk is going? Or is the boardwalk going in where the kind of woods
Boardwalk
are?
is in the woods.
That's what I thought, okay.
The crusher dust is just in the park. We just thought, you know what, we had the time to do it this fall, we're gonna do it, that way when they put when the boardwalk gets installed, this coming summer, then it'll be ready to go.
And then the crusher dust, that's gonna be a trail that stays there as well?
Yeah, the crusher dust is just a crusher dust trail. That's a very boggy park. I would not want to put too much asphalt down on the back, just because it's really, you dig down about 2 or 3 feet beneath the ground, and it's a bog.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that doesn't bode well for the life of asphalt. So, we've got, Hidden Valley is a crusher dust trail, works just fine.
Oh, I didn't have a problem, I just, when it went in, my wife was asking, I thought that trail was gonna go into the woods, and I I said it was, but I wasn't, so we're gonna have basically two trails in there.
Yeah, well, the crusher dust just stops at the wood's edge.
Right.
It just cuts off at that point. And then the next part of the trail, the boardwalk, because it's all wetland in the woods.
Yeah.
The boardwalk will pick up right where the crusher dust trail ends and go to the woods, and then and bring you out onto Argonne Street.
Right, okay. Anything else for Rex, Park and Rec report?
Rex, it looks like under recreation, there's maybe something missing on the very last one that starts out it just says Ashwaubenon Community Center. I don't know if there's something got cut off on the report or something, if there's anything else to add. Talks about the food truck rally, and then it just says Ashwaubenon Community Center. I didn't know if something got missed or.
I think that's part of the ARPA or AARP.
Yeah,
stuff. I think it got
Oh,
jostled
that's
around.
just got- Okay,
That's free tax prep program at the, I'm assuming, a Ashwaubenon Community Center
Ah.
space. Enter staff.
Yeah, it got flipped. It got flipped. Good catch. We'll see if we can make that correction.
And then one other question, I know the bids are going out soon for the Ashwaubenon River Trail Extension, which you mentioned
They're out right now, bids open next Thursday.
next Thursday.
And then that'll, the park, well, you'll get those at the February park board meeting as well as the February village board meeting.
We talked, I think at the November meeting about the clearance near the lake and where the fence is. Did you ever figure out, or the plan was that looked at? I mean, we discussed it at our, I think at our last meeting.
Yep, they changed it, parts of it were 2 feet, parts were 1 feet, and I asked them to make sure there was a 2-foot clearance the whole length.
So when you say clearance from the fence
The edge- from
to the
edge of-
trail
from the
edge,
From the edge of the asphalt trail to the fence,
and then the trail itself will be how many feet wide?
8.
So we'll go from
Behind the
10 to 8. There's no way to make it 10 feet.
Not without eliminating that whole side of the lake. There's just too much space that would need to be taken.
Mel, do you get a lot on the backside of the lake?
We do get quite a few people on the backside of the lake.
So moving the fence in further would be prohibitive, or would you think would impact the availability of that area?
It would, and then, I mean, we also, they come through with the gators and to rake and stuff like that, that would, change, I don't know how much room they would have for
To
that.
get
and how
through
much
there.
they need to get through with that, but we do get quite a few people that utilize that backside of the lake.
All right. Anything else? All right, we'll move on. Action, oh, that's right.
Okay, motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, 8A, consider, discuss, act on the Village of Ashwaubenon naming of parks policy. Rex.
So this is the policy, this was requested at the November, park board meeting. And this is our current policy that we have in place. It's been, really hasn't been changed. It's worked, we've used it a couple of times, since it was created back in the 90s. But this is what we currently have right now, is a park naming, facility type policy.
Thanks for putting on. I just was interested to see where it was at. I've just had some questions lately. We've had, unfortunately, some significant people that have been really involved with the Village of Ashwaubenon pass away, and I've had some questions about naming certain things. So I just wanted to check that the policy hasn't changed at all, so I'll use that. Then the other question I've had a lot, Rex, is the Element Way Park. Is that a working name for that park, or is that the official name, or is that
That's just a placeholder for the time.
placeholder? Okay, so
people
that
know what I'm
park
talking about,
is yet to be named.
correct.
Okay, because I've had some interest in that as well, maybe, again, some historical significance, a person that had recently passed. So yeah, that was the reason I asked. Thank you for putting that on.
Yep.
Any other questions? One thing I did notice on here, and I don't necessarily have a problem with it, and I don't know, I'll just bring it up in case it sparks any conversation. But persons shall be, where am I here? After an individual person shall have obtained local or national prominence via, which is all fine. But nowhere in any of this does it really narrow it down to having a positive influence just on our community. This could be taken as, if somebody decided to nominate I don't know, a president or a governor or something, you know, it doesn't necessarily narrow it down to having an influence and positive influence just in our community. And I just wanted to bring that up. I don't know if it was an issue or anybody would want to have any other thoughts on that. It just stood out to me.
Well, if there's enough interest in it, I mean, we can certainly tweak it to include that. I mean, it's just a matter of probably adding in, you know, a couple of words to one of the current lines that's already there. You know, and I can certainly add that in if we want it in writing. I'm happy, you know, I don't think that's an issue to do. And then I would, and Park Board has the authority to approve it in and of itself. So, I mean, we can just bring it to you back at the, if you would want, at the February meeting.
I would like to see it.
It can't hurt. Like you think about the future and this comes up now, whoever has the final say now is like, wow, this is the way it is. Then 10 years from now, somebody else is looking at it and interprets it a different way. And they say, yeah, so-and-so, yeah, that's an important person. Or
So what I have down is just someone who has had a positive influence within the Ashwaubenon community. And I think that's vague enough that you could really, you know, kind of go whatever direction you wanted to on that. I don't know if you want to be too specific.
no,
Right.
but the Ashwaubenon piece might be the crucial part because otherwise you leave the door open, like you said, for anybody.
Yeah, I was thinking, you know, when I was looking over this, you know, take somebody like Caitlin Clark. Did great things for women's basketball, women's sports in general, great things. You could nominate her, but I think it should be somebody more that has a specific influence, positive contribution to our community. Keep it a little more local. Just,
Well, I think I could easily add it in regarding on the policy page under either number 1 or number 2.
yeah,
You know, so I'll take a little bit deeper look at that, you know, in the next month and just add it in and bring it back to the board for consideration.
yeah, appreciate it.
Yep.
Any other discussion on this? If not, we'll move on. 8B, consider, discuss, act on bid award for mini park on Element Way.
So, we were able to install the playground equipment at this particular facility, which is on Element Way, right behind Sammy's Pizza. So that has been installed, which is what we wanted to do, because now we don't have to go across any new poured concrete with trucks or anything to install the playground equipment. So that's just kind of sitting there as, you know, as an outlier. But this bid it involves all the flat work, the concrete work, everything you see on the map, not including the landscaping. That's going to be done in-house. But includes the electrical. We'll need to bring an electrical box over there for the bollard lighting. It includes the placement of the bollards, running the electrical lines. It includes the drinking fountain, you know, tapping the water line, the sewer line, or whatever for the drinking fountain stuff to come and go. It involves if you take a look at that larger map, on number 17, that's our kind of our cantilevered seating area, covered seating area in front of the cornhole area. So it would include, that shelter, that the cantilevered shade structure has already been ordered. So we'll get that in, and then part of the bid will be to have this company set it in there. So they'll put it in, and then they'll pour concrete around it, and, you know, that type of thing. We've got a lot of the stuff ordered already. Tables are in stock, bike rack is in stock already. Drinking fountain has been ordered. Beanbag things will soon be ordered. Cornhole boards, I guess. They'll be concrete since it's a public park. So that's what this bid is. So basically, it's all the stuff that the village can't do, or certainly not that we can't do it. We'd rather not do because of the time it will take. So that's going to come in, and then when this is all done, then our park and rec crew will come in and do the landscaping. So I've already talked with Dan Bush, our park foreman, as well as Tim. Kind of gave them that map, you know, they know that this is coming down the pike. So we'll do the tree planting, the shrub planting, everything like that. The bids came in, pretty good. We were happy with them anyway. Low bidder, where am I at here? Here we go. Low bidder is Advanced Construction in the amount of $148,511. I have not worked with Advanced, but our Public Works Department has. They're the ones that put in the new drainage pipe over on Timber, you know, for the stream and stuff like that. I know they've done plenty of other projects for the village in the past as well. They're certainly qualified to do this type of work, and then they sub out obviously some things. So staff recommendation is to approve the bid from Highway Landscapers and Advanced Construction, Advanced Construction in the amount of $148,511.30.
Any other discussion on this?
Make a motion to proceed.
Second it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to accept the bid with Advanced Construction for $148,511.30. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
That will go to Village Board for final approval next week.
Okay. C, consider, discuss, act on 2025 tree removal bids.
And Tim, our village forester, will be coming up, and he will tell you what's going on there.
Thank you. The two projects before you tonight, each have their own unique set of challenges, just based upon their location, the soil types, the access for equipment. The first project is a portion of the Dutchman's Creek Conservancy. Kind of starts at Timber Lane where we put in that big culvert this past summer, heading to the northeast, I guess it would be. From there to remove about approximately 25 ash trees located within that public conservancy area. The challenge with that project is going to be access, since every one of those private lots abut up to that conservancy area, and actually the only public access is going to be straight off of Timber Lane, kind of down the steep grade where the culvert was put in, and accessing that area. So to that end,
Is now,
pardon?
where they put the porta potty there? No,
Oh, I don't know where the porta potty
on
is.
Timber, right where that new culvert went in.
Oh, I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
I'll take a look at that, Ron. It doesn't have anything to do with my
Just sitting
project.
there, I thought they were done with the culvert.
Oh, okay. And to that end, I did seek basically a temporary trespass easement from adjoining property owners to allow the village and our contractors to access that creek bottom via their property. The response is really good. I think there's about 14 properties. I think I've got responses from 10 or 11, Kelly, so far. And I'll reach out to the remaining couple out there, see if there's any issues that we need to resolve. The second project is over at Argonne Park, and Chris kind of had a segue into that earlier. Basically where the gravel trail ends, we're looking to push a wooden floating boardwalk through that wooded area, which has a lot of ash trees that have died because of EAP. Obviously, the soils are quite sensitive, being a wetland. So that's the challenge of that area. We'll be removing basically the dead and dying trees. If you think about any of the ones that will hit that boardwalk, if they were to fall. So if they were further away from the boardwalk, leaning away, we're going to leave them. They'll fall and decompose naturally. But basically to ensure that we've got our due diligence in ensuring safety of our pedestrians and people using that trail. Dead trees are gonna be removed within the footprint of that boardwalk area. The debris will be left on site, so basically they'll fell those trees, kind of leave it in the woods to decay naturally. I did ask them to kind of cut it up in smaller pieces to get it closer to the ground, make it not as obvious that there's, a lot of debris in there. And then in the middle 50 feet, so basically from the center line of where the boardwalk is going to be, we're going to remove all the debris within that area. So if there's logs, buckthorn, branches, other debris, within that 50-foot middle of that boardwalk area, we'll remove that debris. And what that'll do is that'll allow us a little bit of leeway to kind of meander that boardwalk as we physically place it next summer when the contractor's there. Bids were sent out to about over 30 contractors. We had a really good response. We had 9 different contractors interested in the project, submitting 8 bids on each project. You don't necessarily have to bid on both of them, and some of them chose to bid on one project or the other. Really doesn't matter to me, as long as we get the best contract in the best interest of the village. It's not surprising that there's a great amount of variability in the bids, as you probably noticed. Overall, I'm quite pleased. I thought the bids would come in significantly higher than where they did. So from a cash flow and a financial standpoint, I'm very pleased where they came in. Project A, the Dutchman's, we had one contractor that was low bid on both of the projects. The Dutchman Creek Conservancy area, $5,450, and then the Argonne Trail Project, $8,250 was the low bid on that. Lowney's Tree Service, I think they're out of the Appleton area. I did check references for projects that they've done for other communities, and they've got good recommendations, high marks, very responsive to resident requests, concerns as the project moved along. So I guess my recommendation is to award the contract to Lowney's Tree Service for both of the projects. If there's any questions or current concerns, comments,
I'll make a motion to accept the recommended bid.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the bid from Lowney's Tree Service for $54.50 and $82.50 for both projects. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Tim, do you want to talk a little bit about part B to this? This is kind of more a later development, but it's certainly part of this overall.
yeah, I'd be happy to. The trail at Argonne has I guess an A and a B. It's got the main trail and then an alternate section of trail. I don't want you to confuse it with bid A and bid B on the bids. So what we did was the main trail, starting where the gravel ends, moving into the woods, and then basically coming out on the center line of Valley View Road. So that's the bid that's before you. On my map, my high-tech map that I put in there. So that's the base bid. There's an alternate bid, and you can kind of see where part of it goes in there. It goes to the north towards Cabela's and kind of pushes back out to Argonne Street. That's going to be an alternate section. The boardwalk is not, we don't have that bid out as far as the installation of the boardwalk. But since the pricing came in so good, the timing, i.e. the weather, all this sub-zero temperatures, I'm a little bit happy about it. Only for the fact that it's gonna help us get this project done on time, because we've got a really small window to get it done this winter. So what we've kind of been directed to do is get some pricing on that alternate section of trail and try and complete it at the same time. I don't have that in front of you tonight. I talked to just the two of the low contractors on there, And once I get the trees marked on Thursday, they'll get me some pricing, and then we'll bring that to village board next week for their consideration. So just to keep you in the loop on that, I think it's a good idea, and it's certainly in our best interest to try and do that project when we have a crew there on site.
So you're just getting quotes then, Tim, on that piece, and then that will go to village board for approval
Yeah,
at the end of the
and-
month?
Yeah, and we'll look at the low bidders on this particular project and see what they have to say, what they come in with.
So just to be clear on this, since the contractor's gonna be there taking the trees down, the alternate B part of this project is just to take the trees down, because it's never going to be cheaper than what it is right now. And they're already gonna be on site, so we wouldn't have to like mobilize a second time to bring in people in there again. The bid was approved for the actual boardwalk installation for part A of the project already. That was approved in '24. So the boardwalk installation will just be for part A of the project. So what'll wind up happening is we will have to bid out the boardwalk installation for the B part of it, if the B gets approved by village board, once Tim gets the pricing for it. But since our thought is it's eventually going to happen, you know, whether it be this year or a couple of years from now, to put a little more woodland trail through that section of property, that now is the time to do it with the pricing that Tim was able to get that came in so low. Everyone understand? Understand that? Okay.
Ron, I was looking, you know, the people that we just approved, Lowney's or Loney's, however you pronounce it. I was comparing that, and I saw in the Forestry report, they were talking about the Foley tree service moving the Dutchman Creek. Did Lowney's bid on that too originally, or not?
Yes, they did. It was actually, they had a merger. And the company used to be called Jason's Tree Service, and they were sent bid materials for the project. Ron, that project was actually bid out 3 years ago, and we haven't been able to complete it because we haven't had enough frozen ground the last 2 years. So that's why I alluded to the fact I'm kind of happy that we have some of these really cold temperatures that's going to allow us to clean up some of these projects.
No, it just seemed strange to see another name with the pricing on this one.
Yeah.
Most people aren't happy with this weather, but we actually are. It's gonna allow us to get some stuff done.
Thank you.
I'll add really quickly, just from a process standpoint, so on the additional work that would be eventually added, you're really kind of providing consent per se, but not necessarily approval. We would need to get the final pricing, it would go to village board, and then confirm with the landowner that our temporary easement and permanent easement is satisfactory still. So we'll have that arranged before the board meeting, just to confirm that. I know that they talked about it. And then just to kind of circle back a little bit, I think, Ron, you had a question about that portable toilet near Timber Lane. There was a culvert replacement that was done. That toilet was there for that contractor, so I'll follow up with Public Works to see where that sits. I do know that to the
I thought it was
west.
gone, and then I saw it again the other day.
Well, maybe they brought it back, and the reason for that is we're working with the property owners immediately to the west of the culvert to do stream restoration and tree management to the west of that. So that's part of that same contract in order to match in the culvert. So they likely brought the toilet back because they're going to begin work on that stream restoration.
Okay, if they're doing stream restoration as they go to the west and then curve to the north, there's a tree laying down across the creek. It'd be good to yank that out of there.
Okay, I'll double check to see how far the scope of the project extends to the west, but I'll mention that to them.
Okay, it would be one, well, you've got the property owner right there on the road, then the next property owner in. The tree fell from the other side, though. The tree fell from the west across onto his property. So like I say, when it rains heavy, then the stream has a tendency to back up because of the fact that you got the tree and some other debris that is now caught against the tree. Okay, thank you.
And Joel, regarding the easement, I believe Patrick put both the A and the B in the easement, so it really would be a matter of notifying the Packers that the tree removal in that easement is just moved up in time.
I agree. Yep, just wanted to confirm that so that we're ready for the board meeting.
Okay.
All right,
Any other
questions?
questions, discussion? Tim doesn't always grace us with his presence at the board meeting, so now's the time.
I try to.
All right, if not, we don't have, yeah, we already did that, yep, yep. Okay, items for next agenda. If anybody would like to see anything,
Well, I know we're gonna have the bid opening for, or the bid presentation for the Ashwaubenon River Trail Extension. That'll be one.
And then the name policy, do you want that to come back?
Oh, yeah,
correct?
You want the naming,
Or
yeah,
naming
naming
policy?
policy to come back, and then everyone's favorite, we're getting results in from our co-sponsored organization, so that'll be the first kick at the cat, basically, on what we wanna do, how we wanna proceed forward with our co-sponsored organizations.
One thing, Rex, that I think we maybe breached during conversation internally at staff is February 18th is the next scheduled park board meeting. That is the third Tuesday of February. It also happens to be the spring primary election, and we have been told that there is a statewide primary that will occur on that date, so we'll have to move the park board meeting to a different day. I don't know if Monday preceding or the Wednesday following would work. Just note that if you do the Wednesday, it's likely that we'll have to meet in conference room A because court may take place in here on Wednesday
That
night.
probably won't work with our co-sponsored group, because I would imagine that's going to bring people in. So we have to have it in here, so we'll send out a date. We'll
Yep.
try and figure it out sooner than later. So everyone's prepared.
okay. If there's nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, we are adjourned.